we are going to talk about basically my favorite AR-15 magazines. What we use and have used for a long time here in TMP. Now, one of the cool things for me personally about having the privilege to do the Nut and Fancy project is I have my own data. That we do a lot of shooting, a lot of different platforms, in this case a lot of different magazines, and I can pretty much find out for myself what works. Don't rely on the internet, I don't rely on a forum, I just go out and find out myself. That's what this video is about. I'm not trying to reinforce any groupthink out there from a forum, from a vendor site, from wherever. I will just share with you very honestly what I think are some of the best, not all of them, but some of the best AR, M4, M16 platform mags available. Now, last night I'm laughing because it just reminded me of why I don't ever go into forums anymore. But just for kicks, I was like, well, speaking of this data that I'm referring to, I was like, well, let me see if my data matches that of, generally speaking, the interweb. So I jump into a forum. I was led there from a Google search. I won't say where. Don't want to give them any publicity. And a dude was going off going, hey, I need real data. Real data on AR mags. What's the best? And he I forget exactly how he put it, but he goes, I only want from operators, soldiers in the field under harsh conditions. I don't want any other data, internet data. And I'm laughing because it's so typical of what you see, not just in forums, but everywhere, of this elitism that only the military folks, only the law enforcement folks can generate data. That's funny to me. I mean, if you really want to know if let's say Type A magazine for an AR system is reliable, it really doesn't matter who's shooting it. The conditions may matter. Temperature, are there particulates in the air, is it a dusty environment? All of that for sure. But the key question is a source reliable? You know, who cares if it's a civilian or it's a military guy? It doesn't matter. And I just laughed. I was like, well, it's got to be an operator. I won't listen unless an operator. It's just, jeez, dude. Go back to your video game. I mean, seriously. The ones you should probably pay the most attention to if you want a large volume of data, and I'm just, you know, a single operator, have a few crew. So we're giving you like this. But if you get a commercial range that is renting guns and shooting day after day, granted it's indoors, it's not in the desert, it's not in snow, so you got to take that into account. But their data's like that. Maybe so expansive I can't even represent it with a hand thing. I mean, they're shooting tens of thousands of rounds because that's their business. They're renting guns. They can tell you what works and what doesn't. So Google that. Secondarily, maybe competitors that shoot a lot. There's a lot that don't shoot a lot. They can tell you what works. And then in this video, I'll tell you my 2 cents of what works on AR magazines. So don't know how long it's going to be. I'm going to make it a single part. And I'm going to start off with the glamorous, I hate to use this word, but I will just for this video, high cap magazines. First, some philosophy. Do you need this? This is a Surefire 60 rounder. Do you need it? I think a lot of people think they need it because these sell. They really do. So here's one. And we bought all the stuff you're seeing. So here's one in wrapper. There's your catalog number. It's a Mag 5-60. Manufacture date is 12. Had them forever. I finally got around to doing this video. I would say probably not. You probably don't need any of these so-called higher capacity magazines in your system. We could throw out a whole discussion of, or application discussion of what you're going to use these guns for. This, by the way, is my own build. It's a MagTac lower BCM enhanced lightweight fluted 16-inch mid-length barrel. Battle Comp KMR, ACO, MFT, MOE, Magpul, bad lever, gold trigger. There's another video they'll post close to this one, depending on audience participation. You'll see all the other parts of it. And here's this companion SPR upper I built. Odin Works barrel, about 3rd MOA. And then we got a Tavor. So what do you have the guns for? That's the main question. Well, and let's be honest, okay? Let's avoid the hype. Second, cool, I think a lot of guys have that. They enjoy collecting the guns, they have it, cool. You don't need a large capacity magazine for it, right? Let's go to our law enforcement audience members. Yeah, you might. You might get in a firefight with said bad guy. These days it could be ISIS, terrorists. And something like this could come in very much into play and save some lives, where you are ready for some firepower and laying it down. Usually I would say firepower is a very important aspect to that application. Military operators, definitely. But one of the key tenets of TMP, it's always been this way, I feel like I've had some influence on the industry as a whole in encouraging them to make smaller, lighter weight stuff, and the audience, our audience, together.
Still ready.
And now we've seen a ton of lightweight things come out. The KMR rail is a great representation of it. So here's a very trim, lightweight AR-15 rail, just for an instance. Going back to LE, police, and military, it's easy to talk abstractly about SAWC. Super easy on the internet. Guys talk is cheap. They don't have to prove themselves. I see it all the time. Again, that's why I left the forums long before I did TMP. It just got old. They're really disconnected from reality, and they talk abstractly. Like, I'm going to run this, I'm going to run that, and I would love to have those guys come out and run Soldier Boy with us. I would love it. Take your, 100-round drum magazine and rock on. I'll run them a mile even before they engage, and then we'll see how they like that very, very heavy system. If you look at military guys in theater, they are not carrying drum mags, and I don't think they're carrying these either. They're just too big. They're too hard to carry and integrate into LBE. They're too cumbersome. They're carrying 30-round stick mags, standard AR mags. But that's where I'm at right now. Civilian recreationally, is it fun to go out and just blast through 60 rounds, 90 rounds, 100 rounds? I've never really, to be honest with you guys, I'm totally honest, I think it's kind of dumb. It's a waste of ammunition. You're not getting any training from it, no practice. Everybody I see doing it, and if you watch the YouTube clips from it, they're not hitting much. They're just doing it for fun. And you just went through, I don't know, $30, $40, $50 of ammunition just for kicks. Barrel wear. I'm into controlled fire, hitting what we're shooting at. Semi-auto fire is where I'm at. I really don't have a need for full auto fire. I've said that before. I don't. Semi-auto is perfect. But for giggles, you want it, go out to a family reunion, blast through. I say rock on. And that would be honest. Hey, I just want it for kicks. Defending the house, no, you don't need that much unless you are going to be overridden by the zombie horde. No. So you decide. For me, and I, again, here we go, just leveling with you. I do integrate higher capacity AR mags into my system for special applications. And my special applications, I won't go into in depth, but I will say this. If I'm running a checkpoint and such person is in charge of security, maybe I have an outline post that's giving him cover, and he's a secondary outpost, he would have a magazine like this, not this one. I'll get to that. But like this, so he's ready to go without loading, and he's probably on a bipod. So it's almost kind of a semi-automatic, I don't know. I want to say SAW, but it's not a SAW, but you get the picture. It's a high volume fire, covering fire application. And so yes, I do integrate them. I like having them. But as far as running and gunning, integrating in some bug out kit, absolutely not. Not me. A little bit of philosophy. You'll have to determine for your own situation. Let's go into this one. Surefire 60 round. It is about once upon a time I paid $100 for that. They're going for about $115 now. It's 8.2 ounces. That is light. It comes from a very reputable company, Surefire, and it sucks. Not recommended. Don't buy it.
Steel case
it sucks.
Challenge.
Here's why. And I found out through my own shooting through the years, I was like, sometimes it will work reliably with brass case ammunition, but most of these higher cap mags I ran with steel, because steel has a higher friction coefficient And you know, it's just rougher for the magazine to feed it reliably. Once upon a time, I did the best magazine video for the Mini 14, and the Tapco polymers, even after redesign, had problems feeding steel. Now, some guys, you know, the AEs will come and say, well, don't shoot Wolf, it's garbage ammunition. Wolf is not garbage ammunition. It's pretty accurate. It's dirty, it's relatively slow, but in a DI gun, it's pretty reliable. It's rare I have a misfire. I have had them. We'll have them in the future. But for, you know, a lower powered, accurate practice ammunition, it's pretty good. I don't diss on Wolf. I don't shoot at much of my guns these days just to preserve barrel, you know. I don't like shooting steel through my barrels. But when I was much poorer, that was not the case. So I'm running steel through the Surefire 60 rounder, and you're seeing video of it, and it was a complete fail. Didn't work. Then I was like, well, okay, I'll give it a fair test. I'll put brass in it. We'll try that. And it worked a little bit better. And this mirrors my previous testing off camera. I got recent footage for you. You know, you'll see that in Insider somewhere. And it was a disappointment. And I was pretty surprised back then, and I remain so. I have heard rumors that they've improved the design. And so maybe if you get one manufactured in 2015, they've overcome these problems. I don't know. If they have, they should make it very public on their website saying, listen, we're sorry, Gen 1, here's the changes we made to make it feed more reliably. And here's why. You've got, what, 3 rounds abreast, and now they're going to choke down into a single, well, actually a staggered column here. That's a lot of friction. So your rounds are rolling. They're rolling against each other, and then they're going to roll into this feed tower staggered into a regular, you know, AR feeding formation like this. And I just think that's a lot of friction. It sounds good in concept. It doesn't work, especially with steel. With steel, it was a complete fail. With brass, I would say it was about 95% reliable, and that's with 2 samples I fired. Obviously, you haven't fired that one. I'm pitching both of these things. Your mileage may vary, but that's what I saw. I would not recommend these. I would not buy them. They're lightweight. I think they're relatively affordable for the firepower they give you. But no, it's a fail. They jammed a lot. Another thing is when you load them up, they're heavy and they just have a standard GI aluminum feed lip. It's so, if you don't have a protector on here, which I think this is coming off another mag system. I mean, you could run something like this, right? Snap it on and maybe it would protect you a little bit. But if it falls, it's going to dent that, and then your mag is really pooched. then you don't even have a chance at it. There you go. So I would say Mag 5-60 is a fail, not recommended. And that will take us to the Beta C mag. Oh, here it comes. Now, this is the magazine I've had in inventory the longest, long before TMP, Beta C mag. And it was highly touted once upon a time. It was the only really high capacity magazine available for the AR system for the longest time, it seemed like to me. There actually is another one I'm going to show you and have tested, and I highly recommend that other one. But this was it, and it was kind of the, you know, it was seen in the news clips a lot, and it just had that special operator feel to it. And I think a lot of guys were like, this is the mag to get. And I'll be honest, I learned and got this one myself and thinking, oh, this mag is awesome. Well, it too is a fail. So here we go with Wolf. It's steel, high, you know, friction coefficient. And I left this the way I ended the test with it. So this is how it ended. And in order to fix it, I'm going to have to pull off these polycarbonate plates, undo the bottom strap, and unload the magazine. And if I'm going to have any chance of getting it to run correctly, I'm going to have to spend some time with the included dry graphite lube. These top rounds is what you're supposed to lube, the spacer rounds right here. But damn, dude, who needs a magazine that I have to fool around doing this? And once again, we see a very complex arrangement. It's coming from 2 different magazines, 2 different springs. You've got heavy spacer rounds here, which are necessary for the feed tower to work. These have to be a balanced feed system and for it not to jam. The thing's freaking heavy. Very heavy. And I'm talking just empty, it's heavy. I don't like it. Now, granted, guys, once upon a time we're saying, oh, it's so balanced, the CMAG, because it's on both sides of the gun. It's low, so you can shoot prone with it. I'll give you that. But all of these drum magazines will have the same issues in that getting a proper AR hold, standing at least, maybe sitting, is going to be extremely difficult. They'll work best on bipod, maybe shooting sticks, maybe a rest of some sort, like a barricade or shooting out a window. Maybe that would work. But first and foremost, the thing you need to know about a CMAG, and I did see this on the internet, it echoes my own experience, is there's a lot of reports of it being not great. Now, if you go into the wiki article, it will say, well, this test was conducted in the Army, came away saying it was flawless and it has deployed to several theaters.
It's been in storage for a while.
I'm just going to tell you from my own data, once again, fresh, just from the source, I would not trust my life to this thing.
That's bad.
I wouldn't. And never mind how big it is, and I'm talking width-wise, and how complex it is, and more importantly, how heavy it is. It's a very heavy magazine. So, 2 springs to feed equally, yeah, and there's some systems it just won't fit into because of this, the dual drum configuration. It just won't fit. And to unjam it, it's going to be a problem. Now, they have come down in price, but shame on CMAG. I mean, for 2 things. One is they never lowered the price. I remember when I got this, I think I paid like $400 for it. And I think it was like mid-90s I got it. So they just like a lot of companies, they cornered the market and they charged the consumer accordingly. Now that they have more competition, the prices come down. You can score them for around $200 now. Genuine CMAGs, I think, maybe $250. KCI makes a knockoff, but I understand it has even worse reliability and quality control issues that you might be aware of or be careful of. No, I don't like the CMAG. We're dumping this one. Sell it. Throw it in the garbage, whatever. Now, to be fair, could I spend some time re-lubricating this again? And I have shot, actually, this magazine, not this one, but several CMAG magazines several times over the years, starting from the mid-90s until this year. This is just one of them, and I have several of them, so I can't remember which one was which. But could I lubricate it, dink around with it, and maybe get it working right? I'll say not with steel. Not with steel. With brass, maybe. Maybe. But with the competition I'm going to show you that's out there, why bother? Also, you'll gouge this feed tower right here with longer rounds, like 75, 77 grainers. And this, albeit a replaceable part, is not that strong. So it's just something. I just think it's interesting for, a supposedly mil-spec ammunition feeding device is such a fail. Really cool carry case. I like the carry case. It's got a little holder for the graphite tube. It's got a little loader right here on the side, so you'll push the rounds down and put them right here. But for me, when I load it, I just use this. The Maglula. Those things are insane. They rock. I love them. You can load on any magazine I have on the table with it. It's just really good. Highly recommended. Link in the bottom if you don't have one. Some of the mags I'm going to show you, you totally don't need it. So that's the Beta C. Think twice before buying it. Next up is, we're kind of getting better as we go along here. I'm talking reliability. Is this one. No. Do you know what this is? Have you guys seen this magazine? This goes way back, dudes. Way back. To the 80s. It's the MWG polycarbonate magazine, and it can come equipped with various feed towers to interface with different guns. They make one for the Mini 14, AR, of course, and I think some other platforms as well. And I've had these since the 80s. And I will tell you, it is an excellent drum magazine. It works. What? I know, it's surprising. It's excellent. It worked in my recent tests perfectly, even with steel, if I'm remembering it right. Works with brass, works with 75 grainers, 77 grainers. It's lightweight. It's about probably 1/4 the weight of a CMAG, but it too has a few downsides. One, like all drum magazines, it's bulky. There's no getting around that. It goes to the left side of the gun, so if you are a left-handed shooter, that would be very bad. Even if you're a right-handed shooter, it gets in the way. You're going to do the chicken wing hold to get around it. Again, bipod use, probably a higher bipod because you can see how deep it runs, or shooting off an object or a rest of some sort is probably the way to go. Also, it has kind of the same issue with a feed tower. It's not super quality plastic. This will wear over time and maybe break. If you drop this fully loaded and it lands like that, you can have a problem. So is it mil spec? No. And I'm using that term broadly, but no, it's not. But it's affordable and it works. So if you're strapped on money and you want a big mag capacity, I'm talking 90 rounds, try the MWG 90 rounder, dude. It's awesome. And I still think they're available out there. I'm really surprised it's held its own throughout the years. I really like that you can see the rounds. And look how simple it is. There's no winding spring here. It's just a normal spring. It works. I've had that forever. I'm never getting rid of my MWGs, man. They're cool. Very cool. Next up, we're talking higher capacity magazines. And I'm sorry, I had one, but I sold it. And I don't have footage of it, so I'll have to roll in an image somewhere else. Had it, but it got toasted. The X15 50 rounder aluminum drum magazine. I think it's a good magazine. It ran for us very well. It's about 2 pounds, so that makes it very heavy, even empty. They do make a skeletonized version of it, which weighs about 1.6 pounds, a little bit lighter. It has kind of a cranking mechanism, so you wind the spring as you load it. It doesn't stick too far out of your AR or other tactical carbine. It's a really good magazine. It is, let me see, I'm trying to find the price. About $215, I think, and about $300 for the skeletonized version. Those prices could vary up and down. It won't work with this system here, the Tavor. I didn't shoot it in the Tavor, by the way. I didn't have it at the time, so there you go. I don't think it holds the bolt open when you're done. For that matter, I don't think the MWG does either. If I'm trying to remember. It is highly discussed, even here on YouTube. It's been peddled heavily and promoted heavily. I do, not by me, but by some others, and I think it's a good mag. My issue with it, as you could probably surmise, is that it's too damn heavy. 2 pounds for 50 rounds? What? 3 gunners, they're running, 50 yards, 60 yards, stage to stage. Weight's not that important, and actually, a heavier gun makes them shoot better. We've discussed that a lot. It does work with steel-cased ammunition. However, in the it has really high quality levels. That's X15 down and dirty. Next up, the Pmag 40 rounder. Okay, they are available in tan and black. Not this super cool plum version, which Tactical Doodle created. So he's like, I want a plum colored version, and so he went out and got some RIT dye and dyed it. Turned out pretty cool, don't you think? This magazine was 100% reliable, no surprise. Thank you, Magpul. Both with steel, 75s, 77s, 62 grainers, 55s, in the snow, in the dust, in the rain. It was reliable. It is a longer magazine, and therefore that means it's going to be tough to shoot prone with. Special application magazine, CPG gun, it would make great sense. It's super lightweight compared to everything else I've shown you to this point, and it fits in a lot of LBE systems. That's a Pmag 40, and they are pretty inexpensive at around $18. Total win. Some others that I'm not going to discuss, I don't have on the table, like there's Chinese 120 round drum magazines. They're kind of wind up things, just like the AK ones. I've never really shot that out of an AR. I've shot them out of an AK. The interesting part about that, and I'll just run off of what's happened historically, is some of the mass shooters that have done their evilness to society have used magazines like that, and interestingly, they've almost always had problems with them. One that comes to mind is, I think his name was Dean Melberg at Fairchild Air Force Base in 1994. He had a Mac 90, he had a wind-up drum. I think it jammed on him. I could be wrong. And I think Holmes in Aurora, Colorado had one. I don't know what type it was, but I think it jammed on him too. So it's just interesting to throw that out. And that would mirror my own experience with them. I think they can run good, but would I go out there and trust my life to them? And plus, they're extremely heavy. No, I wouldn't. All right, so enough of that. Those were the higher cap mags. I hope you liked it. Let's get down to realistic magazine systems, favorites of TMP. It's been this way for a while. You're have been looking at my most favorite magazine the whole time on the table. It's that one. That's right. The Lancer magazine. Oh my gosh, is this an awesome magazine. First up, weight, 4.2 ounces. That makes it lighter than even the Pmag. Dang, son. And the Pmag is light for what it is. Light. Has hardened steel lips that are permanently fused onto the polymer body, which in my favorite version is smoke translucent, so you can see the rounds. Love it. You don't have to put any devices on the top because the spring pressure of the rounds will not deform these feed lips because it's hardened steel. It's PTFE coated. That makes them slicker. It feeds like a dream. I've never had a jam out of a Lancer due to the magazine itself. It's corrosion tested, drop tested by Lancer. It has a constant curve, unlike an USGI mag, which I think they found out that makes them feed better. In my experience, I would totally go with that. And here we see a realistic magazine system. In all these, I'm just going to call them stick mags. I'm going to show you. They'll integrate once again in heck your pocket, in a bug out kit, into your LBE, into all types of different carry systems. Heck, you could clamp two together if you want. It's just super versatile, and it's SAWC compliant. Moreover, we don't have any springs. We don't have a complex spring system that needs to be balanced or wound, and we don't have any of those ridiculous lubes we have to use. It just works. They call them self-lubricating, both this and the Pmag, self-lubricating, and I would totally concur. Not once have I ever had to take one apart and go, oh, it's gritty, it's not feeding, got to clean it out. And I've dropped plenty of all the mags I'm showing you in the dirt, in the dust, and they keep working. Yeah, the Lancers are number one. And let me see, I have one in package. Again, this is my favorite one. And then the 20 rounders I highly, highly recommend. Here's a loaded one right there. The 20s are great for range use because as I'm in the gun rest, it's very short and it's just a great way to do work on the gun at the range. In some applications, it would make a lot of sense. 20 rounds in some defensive situations would be plenty. For instance, home defense. Do you need a 60 round, even a 30 round? You may not. Just depends. If you have a really bad neighborhood, I guess. Maybe you do. I don't know what your situation is. Lancer is my number one mag. Love it, love it, love it. Great job, Lancer Company. Next one is very close to it. And again, you've been looking at it the whole time. It's this one right here by Pmag. Generation whatever. I mean, look it up on the internet. You'll find all types of generational differences on the Pmags. They've relocated their factory, and so they've reduced the number of colors. I think you'll see all these cool colors. This is foliage. This is FDE. They'll come back eventually, I think. As long as it has a window in it for me to round count it, I'm happy. Happy. This is pretty much the workhorse. I'm talking longest period of time, not the Lancer. I've had these in the project the longest period of time, and man, are they awesome. They just don't jam. They don't. They are self-lubricating. They have a constant rate curve. They come with a super cool clippable dust cover that will relieve tension on the feed lips, which in this case are still a military grade polymer. They're not steel like in the case of the Lancer. They weigh 5.2 ounces, so they're a little bit heavier, which is interesting because I can go to a Lancer system and basically save 1.5 ounces just by switching my magazine. No component switches on the AR or your Tavor or whatever at all, and it works. You can see your rounds. Different colorations are super cool. It's just great. The newest versions have like a paint pen dot matrix in them. And these are not them, but I'll show you another example of that before we end the video. It's actually another drum mag I forgot to mention. Pmags are excellent. Here's a 20 rounder. This is also a workhorse for TMP. And by the way, these I'm going to the range, and that's why you're seeing loaded mags. I'm not going to unload them for the video, so just deal with it. It's not going to happen. It's too much work. But I've used this one for 10 years. It's been excellent. Dropped it on concrete. Dropped it in the desert. It's been in the snow. no problems. It's stainless steel springs, just like the Lancer. I think they're stainless steel, and they just don't corrode, so great mags. Next up, rolling along, are the ever popular and ever excellent GI magazines. So here's one new in wrapper, and it's from probably my favorite company who makes them, and that's C Products. This is a black Teflon coated GI specification magazine. Now, and it's not just C Products. I'm going to represent a whole bunch here. Here's one that I think this is Duracoated, probably in 2009. You can see the wear on it after being used. C Products. Great magazines. Now, it doesn't feature that constant rate curve that we talked about, but I'll tell you what, they're pretty dang reliable. You know, you really can't go wrong with GI mags. If it's a GI specification mag like C Products, thumbs up. They're super light. They're only 4 ounces. You know, they weren't meant to be reusable. Once upon a time, I think the GI aluminum magazine was meant to be disposable. Load it up, throw it on the battlefield, but they found they were so well made that guys were reusing them, and so I think they reuse them. Well, I don't think, I know from my own military experience they do. Here's one that's not been coated. It's just a black Teflon, which will, you know, wear off and look cool over time, and then reveal the Teflon coating underneath. The gray ones are fine. We're talking generally about the GI mags, not just this manufacturer one. And another one I'd really like are the Brownells. Here's one in a tan. Actually, I think they call it FDE or brown, whatever. So it's got all the features that a normal GI magazine has. So it has an anti-tilt follower. Some will, and I love this about C Products, I think they used the Magpul follower in there. The orange follower, which I'm not really representing well here. Does this one have it? No, that's a gray one. But that's a Magpul one, which is a plus. So that's another reason why C Products is at the top of the list. I remember back in the 90s, I'd take all my GI mags, pull out the tilt follower, and put the green anti-tilt follower in there. It's a big project. But they're great mags. They're excellent. Here's one, an old Colt 20 rounder. Yeah, great. I think I bought this used, and it's still excellent. It's still completely reliable. I'm getting ready to shoot some IMI out of it, so it's ranged. Excellent. Other manufacturers you should consider, and they're all good because they're making them to military specification or very closely thereto. C Products, I talked about. Brownells, OK Industries, Center, Parsons, FN, Adventureline, Bushmaster, DPMS, just to name a few. They're all good. All good. Moving on. My next favorite, and this is in order, by the way. And before I actually leave the GI, there is one thing I want to say about it versus some others I've shown you, is it will fit into pretty much all your weapon systems. For instance, like the FN FS 2000, we had to go with this mag. I think Pmags were having a problem with that rubber, and I'm going off memory, so I hope I'm not wrong. Lots of guns, lots of testing. The rubber gasket that has in its mag well in the FS 2000 by FN, which is dumb to have it, but the GI mag would work perfectly in it. Just a thought. And it works, you know, like in the Tavors, but you can see the Lancers working in there too. Next up, I'm going to kind of group all these together because, I don't know, just kind of think of them together as in Tactical Ammunition sponsors us for ammo. Some loads, just some. Here's a Troy magazine wearing their logo, and Troy magazines are excellent. We've shot those a lot. They're lightweight. They're just like the Pmags. However, they never made it with a visible window. It does come in tan, black obviously, and some other colors. It's a good magazine. Along with that, the Tapco, which I have but I didn't find them. Those are good magazines. I can't remember if I tested those with steel. Incidentally, every stick mag I've shown you to this point works great with wolf and brass ammo. Or steel cased and brass ammo. It has. I just haven't seen any problems. Whether you're talking GI aluminum, Lancer, Pmag, in this case, the Troy. And another thing I forgot to mention, I'm glad I remembered it, is these are super easy to load. These ones right here. You don't even need that loading device. You can just, because they're self-lubricating, they're just easy breezy to push the rounds in. I'm talking the Pmag specifically, and the Lancers are the same way. Push, push, push. Next thing you know, you've loaded the whole mag. And emptying them is the same way. The way I empty them is I don't use a Maglula or any other devices. I'll just pop the rounds like this. And I can unload a magazine pretty quick. You get the picture. Other brands. Maybe I would probably be careful about getting some of these. Pmag, I think they make good mags and they make bad magazines. They kind of have a mixed reputation, deservedly, but some of their products are really good. Thermold, those are great magazines. Don't believe what you've heard. You know, the old thermelt internet rumor still persists. Hey, you go full auto, they melt. Well, I'm not going full auto, and I have shot very heavily out of thermolds, and they've been great. They're very excellent magazines. They date way back, and they're super light. I think they're like 3.8 ounces. Tough. You can run over them with a car, and they still won't break. I wouldn't steer clear of thermolds at all. They're excellent. H&K makes some steel ones. I think they're ridiculous. Some guys swear by them, but they're guys that don't run and gun. They're guys that really don't care about the way of their systems. Maybe they're high volume shooters in 3-gun competitions or whatever, He-Man competitions. And so a steel magazine in that philosophy of use actually would make a lot of sense because it's dropping on the concrete. It's getting a lot of wear and tear on it. And unlike an aluminum, maybe even a poly or polycarbonate mag, it will last. I understand that. But that's not my POU. My POU is loaded up, have to hike 10 miles. The gun, the mag, comes with me. My mileage, no apologies. D&H makes some. Tango Down magazines are really good. Triple K makes some. I hear they're very good. I haven't shot those. And some others I'm probably forgetting. Wrapping it up. Here's a really excellent drum mag. You can hear it rattling right now. And this is my overall #1 pick for a drum magazine. Say hey to the Magpul D60. That is how you do a drum mag. The D60. I didn't get any tube of graphite with this because it doesn't need it. It's pretty small. It's a 60 rounder. It's lighter weight than pretty much every other drum mag I've shown you except that MWG. And it's super easy to load. Look at this super smart loading system that they have. You'll just crank this and load 4 rounds at a time. I mean, I'm not doing it here on the table, but I'll probably show you footage of me doing it. Just crank it, load 4 rounds in, and just push them down. And if you need to unload it, you just pop this loading gate on the feed tower and they'll all dump out. Even has that super cool pin matrix, TMP1. And a visible window. What? Hey, how'd you get that color, Nutton? I made it. That's how. That's Cerakoted in FDE. Baked on Cerakote, so it will last pretty good. That's a great magazine right there. They are hard to find because I think the word is getting out how excellent these magazines are. I'm talking about the Magpul D60s. But it's my number 1 favorite mag. About $125, I think. Give or take. $125. And if I think about it, I'll annotate the weight empty on it. You know, am I going to get a couple more of these? Yeah, probably. Just for special applications. And they look cool at the range. I mean, if you put a drum mag in on the range, guys are probably like, oh, dude, check that out. Some guys really like it. Me, I'm more practical. I'm going to the range to work. You know, that's a work session for me. Zeroing, checking loads, checking velocities, checking a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's where I'm at right now, subject to change. Favorite magazines for the AR-15, M4, M16, or variant rifles. That's just what we've seen. #1 is Lancer magazine. Pmag is really a very close second, and the others I've talked about is if you have to go with a higher capacity magazine, I would go with the Magpul D60. See you later.